Hi, my name is Alexander. In a previous video, we converted Angular project to React JS project. In this video, we will convert our React JS project into Redux project with Typescript, and we will use Redux library for the global state management. First, I will show how the project will work, and after that, we will create it step by step using our React JS project that we created in a previous video. For the server side, we will use .NET Core Web API that we created in a video Angular 18 and NGRX State Management. The GitHub references for the source code for the server-side and client-side applications are indicated in the video description. Start server-side .NET Core Web API application. And client-side application React with Redux State Management. .NET Core Web API provides access to the product table on SQL Server database. When user clicks Products, Get Products button, application selects all product in one table from SQL Server database and fills the Redux store with the products array. Above the table, we have a label indicating the source of data. We see that the data have been received from the SQL Server database and the state of Redux store has been updated. Now, when we press the Departments buttons or Products link, the products will be selected from the Redux state object. Anytime, user can remove all the data from the Redux state by pressing Clear State button. After that, the only option to get the data will be request to the SQL Server database by pressing Get Products button. It doesn't matter where you press this button, in a department component or in a products component. The request will provide all products and fill the Redux state again. The department component will provide the department products and products component will provide all products. Clear the Redux state again and press Get Products on a computer's component. The data received from SQL Server database. Press Products. We see that Products component received the data from the Redux state. Clear State. Get Product. The product received from the SQL Server database, but if we will press Get Product button again, we see that now product received from Redux state. When we use other buttons, Update, Add, or Delete Product, every time we will receive product from the SQL Server database. It is because all these actions have to update SQL Server database, and after that update Redux state. Select other products. Now we have 4 products in Redux state. Click Department buttons. We will have products from the Redux state. The Redux store holds the entire state tree of our application. React component can interact with the Redux store by reading pieces of state and dispatching actions to update the store. It reduces backend API calls. Let's create React project with Typescript and Redux. In accordance with official Redux website, the recommended way to start new application with React and Redux is by using official Redux plus TypeScript template for Vite. Using this way, we will have Redux toolkit and React Redux configured appropriately, and it will come with a small example application that demonstrates how to use several of Redux toolkit's features. Start project. The project is running. Open created project in a Visual Studio Code. This simple application uses Redux to manage the application state. We can check that some configuration settings have been established. For example, provider tag with a store around application component in the main.tsx file. The provider makes the Redux store available to all connected components within its scope. This eliminates the need to pass the store as a prop to every component that needs to interact with it. The file hooks.ts that serves as a central hub for exporting pre-typed Redux hooks. Here is a breakdown of how Redux works. Store. The Redux store holds the entire state of your application in a single JavaScript object. The store is read-only. You cannot directly modify its state. The store can be created from multiple slices, each responsible for a certain feature in the application. For example, here we have interfaces for two slices in the store: counter slice and quotes API slice. Each slice encapsulates the state, actions, and reducers related to this particular feature. Think of it as breaking down the overall Redux store into smaller, more manageable pieces. To create a slice, we have to define an interface or type for its initial state value. This allows Typescript to infer the type of the state argument within our reducer functions and provides type safety throughout our slice's logic. Creating a slice requires a string name to identify the slice, an initial state value, and one or more reducer functions to define how the state will be updated. Once the slice is created, we can export the generated Redux action creators and the reducer function for the whole slice. In Redux, actions are plain JavaScript objects that describe what happened in an application. They are the only way to trigger changes in the Redux store. Action creators are functions that return action objects. Each action has a type property, a string, indicating the kind of change, and optionally a payload containing data. Actions are dispatched to the Redux store with the action.payload as an argument, which then calls the appropriate reducer function to update the state. The reducer's logic determines how the state is modified based on the dispatched action. Reducers. Reducers are pure functions that take the current state and an action as input and return a new state based on that action. They are responsible to update the state in response to actions. Reducers will never directly make an update to Redux store. It is concept of immutability. Redux takes the state, creates a copy of the state, makes those changes to that copy of the state, and will completely replace the state as a whole with a copy that has the changes applied. Please look at this notification. Even if Redux Toolkit allows us to write mutating logic in reducers, it doesn't actually mutate the state because it uses the email library. It detects changes to a draft state and produces a brand new immutable state based off those changes. Combine slices takes slices and merges them into a single root reducer. In redux.js.org website, we can see the diagram which provides the flow of data through the Redux application. UA dispatches the action to the store. The store passes the action to the reducer. The reducer calculates a new state based on the action and returns it. The store updates its state with a new state returned by the reducer. The UI is re-renders based on the updated state. Install libraries required for our React application. React Router DOM, React Select, Axios. Let's copy the code from our previous project. Change file extensions from JS to TSX. Start client-side application. Check that application works. Everything works as expected, but in this application I didn't implement Redux state management, therefore the button clear state doesn't work. Now we created React project with a Typescript, so let's add types and constant. We can see that project has a syntax errors. It is because we used JavaScript files from our previous project, which don't have type definitions. We will fix it later. To implement Redux state management, we have to add our slice to the store object. Add product slice to the feature products folder. Our state will contain the products array, current product that user selects in the store, and the status of product loading process, idle, loading, or failed. Define initial state value, empty array and empty current product, status idle. In reducer, we created reducer functions. GetProductSync, this function will update state with product selected by user. AddProductSync, this function will add a new product created by the user to the state object. UpdateProductSync, this function will update product in the state when the user updates product. RemoveProductSync, this function will remove product from the state when user deletes product. GetProductsAsync, this asynchronous function will receive the products array using HTTP request to the SQL Server database. All functions rewrite the table with products in UI based on the current state object. To create a synchronous function using Redux Toolkit, we have to use create async trunk middleware from the Redux Toolkit. Inside this function, we can put our asynchronous function. It can be dispatched like a regular action. Dispatch getProductAsync with the object containing parameters. This will call the trunk with the dispatch action as a first argument. Async code can then be executed. In Redux Toolkit, create async trunk automatically generates 3 action types and corresponding action creators for asynchronous operations: pending, fulfilled, rejected. The fulfilled action is dispatched when the asynchronous operation, it is API call, completes successfully. To transfer additional parameters from our async function to a fulfilled section, we have to create an object. This object will transfer using the return statement, and fulfilled section receives our object as action payload object. In our case, we transfer the product array received from SQL Server database and department type ID to filter products array based on a department when the request comes from a department component. Clear state sync reducers function is used to remove all the data from the Redux state. Update the store object with our slice. Comment middleware. In our project, we use middleware and get project's async reducer function. To allow functional components to extract and access data from the Redux store, we defined our selectors. These selectors receive the slice state as their first argument. We have to export selectors. In the components, we can use selector hook to get access to the Redux application state. But in the hook.ts that has been created automatically for our project, we have a suggestion to use app selector and use app dispatch, aliases for use selector with types, and use dispatch with types. In a previous video, we created one component for all 3 departments and filled the data in the UI table by condition. In the current application, we will create 3 components. It is because we would like to load data to the component from Redux state after initial render. Add 3 components: cafeteria, computers, cars with Typescript, and update code in the product component, fetch service, and fetch helper. Remove unused code. In fetch service, we use Axios, a promise-based JavaScript library used for making HTTP requests to .NET Core Web API. The fetch service file contains the following asynchronous functions: HTTP get products, HTTP get product, HTTP add product, HTTP update product, HTTP delete product, and check connection that checks connection with the server and displays the message server is down in the HTML text area element when a connection to a server cannot be established. In fetch helper, we have 3 functions: clean up text area, show status to display a message in HTML text area element, display product list to display products in a table. All these methods we created in our previous video. In the components, we import product list selector from the product slice and use app selector hook to get access to products array from the Redux state. Then we use effect hook to display product list in the department components or in a product component. To make a use effect hook in React run only once after component's initial render, we have to provide an empty array as its second argument, the dependency array. When user clicks any of CRUD buttons, the function handler of the onClick event checks a connection with the server. When it gets product function that doesn't need to update SQL Server database, function checks Redux state, and if the product exists, returns the product from the Redux state. If Redux state doesn't contain the product, function sends a synchronous request to the .NET Core Web API to get product from the SQL Server database. All other CRUD functions send a synchronous request to the .NET Core Web API, which communicates with the SQL Server. After receiving a response, function dispatches related action with the data to update Redux state and displays products array from the Redux state in the user interface. When user clicks the button Get Products, onClick event handler Get Product List, checks a connection with the server, dispatches getProduct async action with data object containing URL for .NET Core Web API and department type. Uses create async trunk middleware from Redux toolkit to get product array from the server side, update Redux state, and displays the full products array from the Redux state in user interface when the request comes from the products component. Or department's products array when the request comes from the department component. Update app.tsx file with the new departments. Let's check syntax using lint. To fix three errors, we have to add void to navigate functions in layout.tsx file. The warnings are okay because in the useEffect hooks, we intentionally provided an empty array as its second argument, the dependency array, to make a useEffect hook run only once after the component initial render. Test application start server-side and client-side application. Click Products, Get Products. Application selects all products in one table from SQL Server database and fills the Redux store with a products array. Above the table, we have a label indicating the source of data. We see that the data has been received from the SQL Server database and the state of Redux store has been updated. Press the department buttons. The products are selected from the Redux state object. Anytime user can remove all the data from the Redux state by pressing Clear State button. After that, the only option to get the data will be request to the SQL Server database by pressing Get Products button. And it doesn't matter where you press the button, in the department component or in the products component. The request will provide all products and fill the Redux state again. The department component will provide the department products and products component will provide all products. clear state, select Computers department. Press Get Products on a computer's component. The data received from SQL Server database. Press Products. We see that Products component received the data from the Redux state. Clear state. Select any product. The product selected from SQL Server database. But if we will press Get Product button again, we see that now product received from the Redux state. When we use other buttons, update, add, or delete product every time we will receive the product from SQL Server database, it is because all these actions have to update SQL Server database, and after that, update Redux state. Select other products. Now we have 3 products in Redux state. Check department buttons. We received all products from the Redux state. Check CRUD operations. Get product. Update product. Add product. Delete product. Everything works as expected. Check error handling. Get product that doesn't exist in database. We received a message, no data found. Add product that exists in database. We received a message, cannot insert the record with ID 15, violation of primary key constraint. Update product that doesn't exist. We received a message, error, cannot update the record with ID, the specified record doesn't exist. Delete product which doesn't exist in database. We received a message, error, cannot delete the record with ID, the specified record doesn't exist. Test notification, server is down. Stop server-side application. Start client-side application. Try to get products. We received a notification, server is down. Check CRUD operations. Get product. Update product. Add product. Delete product. In all cases, we received a notification server is down. Test empty form button. Everything works as expected. And one final note. Do not forget to add the link of your client application to a course policy on the server side. File program.cs to allow a web page to access resources from the server. We created React application with a Typescript, Vite, and Redux state management to handle data that needs to be accessed and modified by multiple components across React application. If you are enjoying this content and would like to see more and support my channel, please feel free to like this video and hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, have a good day, and bye!